gentlemen. Down here in the bottom left-hand corner from the team FXO, he is Gumiho. And the series has been tied up here by his opponent in the top right from Team Prime. Give it up for Creator.
Yeah, Creator, one of the still remaining bright spots for Prime. They have a strong lineup, but it's obviously been a little bit in decline over the past few months, which is sad because they used to be such stalwarts in the team league. Really, any team league. Our team league, the GSTL, obviously, we loved having them out for IPL 4 and competing against StarTale Live, but recently just been on a little bit of slide in team league situations, and I'd love to see them jump back up to their prime.
I was thinking former glory, Kevin.
Yes. I was thinking something similar, but then I was like, nope, this is too good.
That's the funny thing, though.
I
see, I don't like Prime, because Prime is always, you know, a part of your life that once you descend from it, they say you don't return, right?
Yeah. Sometimes you get a second win, though, and sometimes you actually hit a better part of your life. You thought that was your prime, but it wasn't even your prime, and you have yet to find your prime.
High school jock meets the Hollywood movie star.
Anyone who says high school is the best time of your life is a dirty liar, by the way.
Well,
I just want to put that out there. No. You need to live a better life then, because high school should not be the best moments of your life. I remember I had the cheerleader coach in my old high school. She also ran the Honor Society too, National Honor Society chapter. So she'd always be like, "Enjoy this, guys, because this is to be the best moments of your life." Another 2Rex coming out of Gumiho.
You do hear that a lot.
I was like, "Well, you had a sad existence, but I'm pretty sure the casting StarCraft for a living is pretty much the best time of my life."
Pretty super awesome. So, will this be scouted is the question here from Creator. Gumiho has, of course, as you mentioned, Kevin, opened up with the 2 racks, the barracks on the low ground, notably not on the high ground in the main. And what can happen here is Creator can actually run to the edge of the ledge. I know that rhymes, I didn't mean it, but he's in fact going to turn around immediately. What we have happen sometimes when you go in there, you don't see the command center, you can run around.
Something interesting to note, Gumiho, unless he was planning to go for a 1-Rax Gasless fast expand that didn't have the second supply depot, that supply depot should have been down by now. And maybe the probe caught wind of that. Who knows if it did or didn't. He's not going to explicitly see the second barracks over off to the side. If he circles back around it again in a minute and notices that there's not an expansion up yet, that could be worrisome for Gumiho.
Yeah, this is a big thing. Little things like this in the early stages of the game are the small discrepancies which make the difference between pro players and not pro players. Every pro player drops their supply depot on time. Gumiho included. He drops his supply depot on time. It'd be a good thing to intentionally not do in some of your games so that when you do plays like this, it could work out for you. But Creator smells this, and so he's going to start his Warp Gate. He's going to play his Stalker, and I think we're going to see him make another Stalker behind this because he feels it. There's something wrong here.
He gets it. No, he is actually going to hold this off really well. He's basically done everything he needs to in order to perfectly counter this out and can afford to put down his expansion a little bit later. And already Gumiho's floating back his second barracks into his base. He's got a decent group of Marines, but against two unupgraded those unupgraded Marines against 2 Stalkers is not going to last very long.
This is pretty cool too. I mean, Gumiho realizes that Creator, you've seen enough to know that I'm probably going for this. I'm not 100% sure that you know, but I kind of suspect that you know. I'm going to lift my Marine up. I'm going to shell up a little. I'm going to expand. I'm going to play out of this. And he's waiting a minute or 2 to move in here, probably until that Nexus goes down, but it may not be for a while. We've got 3 additional gateways following up here for Creator.
Just 2. I mean, and that is actually a little bit of an important distinction, just due to the fact that the 3-gate expand is, because I was going to comment, I was going to be like, how long has it been since you've seen a 3-gate expand in PvT? You know, it's been a while. This is something that used to be a tried and true build, because you had these sorts of 2-racks aggression that came out all the time, especially the variety that had a reactor first and then a tech lab right afterwards and hit with some Marines and a couple of concussor shell Marauders. Absolutely.
It's super safe against them. Against a style like this, he may be able to apply a little bit of counter pressure. Taking a look at how many sentries he's made, it's going to find this SCV, by the way. That Stalker is going to be very close to dying. We'll see if it can manage to escape. Take a look at the vision. He's going to immediately turn around, gets up the ramp, and this is going to be a cool little dance-off.
That's right, and we'll see whose control is better. Let's select all of their health. We'll ignore everything else that's happening on the map while this is going on. Actually, the Nexus is finishing up at the same time. He needs to at least snag 1 Marine, and does, but that's not exactly what he wanted to take with him. Oh, look, he runs up with a second Stalker, though, and he's going to try and finish these off. Cool stuff.
Can't really charge up the ramp after running down, unfortunately. for Creator. Oh, that Marine is so dead. No, he turned around. If he had it run backwards, he could have sniped that Marine, but in fact, I think he was in the kiting zone, you know?
Yeah.
He was just used to kiting, so he like fell back. Then he realized, oh, you actually need to retreat from me.
Very cool stuff. And look at this. Creator's actually going to finish this off, so that trade before was worth it. One Marine for 5 stalker, or 1 Marine for 5 stalkers.
Oh
5 Marines for 1 stalker. I think
Best
actually
trade
6 Marines.
NA.
Yeah, 6 Marines for 1 stalker. Good stuff.
Well, this is technically KR. All right, so
you were talking about counter 3-gate pressure.
Yeah, down in the bottom right, we've got that pylon set up, and this is what I was looking for, sentries, because you build the sentries early on in the warp-in rounds. They have a lot of time to accrue energy, and then you're able to reinforce here with additional stalkers to supplement your DPS. 60 out of 68 supply sub-zealots coming in as well. Of course, you want to be able to slam away on that bunker that should exist here for Gumiho. Stalker's getting lost right now as Creator is a little preoccupied moving in with his forces. There is only 1 bunker in place, but there are a million sentries here for Creator. Gumiho is already pulling back.
Wow, he's pulled back everything from this base. That bunker's going to fall very quickly. It actually only takes out 1 unit. That's very unfortunate for Gumiho, and he's going to try and counterattack. But the problem is, Creator saw that force move across the map, and he knows it's not flanking him right now. So it's got to be moving out, and it's got to be trying to do damage. So Creator, he's preparing with some warp-ins back at home, and looks like Gumiho is actually already moving into tanks. And the first time we've seen tanks included into an army for a Terran player.
Now, this is where you want to turn around pretty quickly with the probes, and he does. Much better control this game out of Creator than we saw in game number 2 when he managed to lose so many probes on Ohana. Look at this. I think he lost 3 workers there in total. A fantastic hold from Creator. Total of 4 lost throughout the course of this game. Great stuff in that hold, and now he's got this contained with minimal losses back at his base.
You're absolutely right. That control was just phenomenal. His decision-making was good, and now Creator's got a full-on contain against his opponent. If he catches glimpse of these siege tanks, and he has, this is going to be a good spot for him.
All right, well, he manages to get up there and get a little bit of damage in, and upon seeing those siege tanks, you kind of, well, all right, you're probably going to have siege tech any minute. I don't know if I can manage to continue to pressure this. We may see Creator turn around.
Yeah, I think that's a smart decision. He's already done the damage he needs. He's moving up to a robotics facility. He wants Zealots and Immortals right now. Zealots and Immortals, and that's exactly what he's making. He just did a big warp into Zealots back at home, starting his Immortals up, going over to his robotics bay, and starting to move into that traditional Creator build that we see so often.
So I want to see if Gumiho is going to play this defensively, because this is a terrible map for 1-1-1, to be blatantly honest. These positions are at least conducive to a victory for Terran in the slightest regard, but overall, Creator, let's take a look at his main base. You got that pylon that is towards the ramp. If you build one a little bit closer to the left, if you sense this pressure coming, you can actually, when your opponent pushes in, you can just warp in behind their siege tank line, and it obliterates them. It kills every Terran. It's so difficult to pull off a 1-1-1 on this map. At least with Gumiho's perspective, he can come in from the top left, you know, from the eventual 4th base of Creator. But as I said, I expect him to maybe play a little defensive with this, because it just doesn't work all that well on this map.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%, actually. And he's already sending out to build that next command center now, which I think is the right move, because the tanks have a little bit of utility in this army, especially if he had a couple of Banshees with it, but just being able to make a big siege push is not going to work. Now, he is continuing to add them on. I figured he would have actually stopped with about 3 or 4 of those and continue moving into a little bit stronger bio, because once Colossi start getting added on and he can engage on those siege tanks a little bit closer, then that's going to be incredibly rough to deal with.
Yeah, it's a lot of gas at that point that you've put into siege tanks instead of into Vikings. You need a unit that hard counters those Colossi, because trust me, they hard counter your bio.
Yeah.
And if you kind of handle them ever so lacklusterly, let me throw some siege units in there that have the range to match your Colossi, but don't absolutely obliterate them out of the sky, because Colossus are really tall units, then you're going to get wiped up off the floor by the Colossi. Gumiho could be in a rough stage moving into the late game here.
Yeah, I mean, just anything that you could use gas for. You're sacrificing Marauders, upgrades, Vikings, as you mentioned before. You're really setting your tech behind quite a bit in order to make a big push, and this just is a very difficult map to get that done, as you've already said before. Okay, so taking a look at things, Creator now getting out with a just 1 observer for now, because that robotics facility had come up so late, but he's got a great idea of what's going on with his opponent now.
So taking a look at the production tab, do we see, I saw an armory complete, in fact.
Yeah,
or it's
just
almost done. And it looks like he is working on +1 armor, actually, so that is likely going to be for the +2 upgrades. I really was anxious to see if he's going to go for any sort of vehicle upgrades and do something crazy here, because, you know, I agree, Kevin, I think the style's a little bit perplexing, but at this point, he actually has ceased with siege tank production, and is going to be relying on this mostly for mid-game.
Yeah, we mentioned in game number 1 that Gumiho loves playing or maybe game number 2, while Gumiho loves playing a little bit sloppier version of macro Terran, he plays an incredibly over-the-top macro version of it too, and that's what he's doing here, because he was sad, I was contained, double expand afterwards, and just dropped down bases number 3 and 4. Millions of production facilities, all of the upgrades at once. And the thing with Gumiho is that you'll always see a massive production tab.
Yeah.
That's kind of his hallmark. So he's moving into that more traditional bio that we were talking about before. He's researching his upgrades for his Terran ships. I think he just finished a Ghost Academy as well, so he's got everything he needs for the late game.
He really does. He's gearing up for it. And remember, this is the player that we were talking about in game number 1 that we saw on this very map. Expand to all 7 bases, guys. The ones with the creep tumors on the islands and all 5 on his own side as well. Gumiho with some severe macro capabilities. Creator on the reverse side of things, you know, he's sitting on 3 bases right now quite comfortably, but he does want to spur himself a little bit into action, because if it continues to sit stagnant like this, you will not be able to punish the greed that we're seeing at this moment out of Gumiho.
I agree, and this planetary fortress is already halfway done. Never mind that that's already a base that you can mine off of, so Gumiho's looking really good at this stage of the game, making up for, I think, a couple of the mistakes before we talked about investing in those siege tanks for too long. But if he keeps them up for defensive purposes like we saw before, it's going to make it a very difficult position for Creator to try and engage.
It really is, and he's giving Gumiho the time to get those upgrades. He's got ship weapons on the way. He'll be able to churn out some Vikings here. Does need to get a peek at that Colossus count, though, because if we take a look at the unit supply, there's actually only 3 Vikings on the field, and a Viking for each Colossus is, well, not exactly where you want to be. So Gumiho, he's making 2 at a time right now. He needs to continue churning out those Vikings.
Yeah, you need at least double the Vikings usually, and that's assuming that you have a little bit of upgrades for them of your opponent's Colossi. That's a good amount to make sure that you do damage, but that you're not also just throwing away supply into Vikings at the end of a fight. And all right, well, we'll see what happens. Creator is going to get a bit aggressive. He is maxed out. I would hope that he expands to a 4th behind this too, although he may just be interested in reinforcing up to the front more than anything else.
All right, maxed out Creator Protoss with, looks like the only thing he's lacking here is the +3 on his, oh, that's actually armor.
He only has +2 armor. That's it.
Wow.
No weapons upgrades
No weapons at all.
Okay, well, he's going to try and charge into this nonetheless. That's a very large force from Gumiho, and the best part about this map for Terran players, of course, there's a lot of places where you can actually duck your Vikings in where they're not accessible by Stalkers at a decent range, and you can sit back and pick off Colossi from afar.
This is super effective, these armor upgrades against the siege tanks, because the siege tanks are dealing splash. They're hitting multiple targets with every shot, and so the armor is a multiplied factor here in Creator's composition. He's also not excessively zealot heavy, which is something we often see with the armor upgrades, so I really like Creator's comp here.
Yes, but a very nice job. Those Ghosts got up and EMP'd every caster unit, well, very nearly. There was like 1 or 2 sentries that still have energy left on them. That's going to significantly limit the capability of Creator's army in this fight.
Well, to heavily engage, but it still helps with this poke. Now the armor's actually able to be a factor here. Of course, with the shield, it doesn't really matter at all. And he's still got all of his units. He's only lost over the course of this 10 supply. He's making a Colossus, 2 Stalkers right now. The Viking's still a huge factor here, trying to bait the blink in. The Zealots are trapped a little bit behind the units right now. They're trying to bottleneck through. And overall, the Zealots are having a really hard time getting into this fight. The Colossi are all being picked off by Gumiho's Vikings. Overall, it's tough to call this fight.
It is, because the Zealots have a really nice surround here on all the forces, so despite the fact that most of the AoE has actually dropped, the single target damage is still pretty good, but it looks like ever so slowly Gumiho's going to have enough forces to push this back, but Ek came down right to the wire. Did he lose many workers with that? Yes, he actually lost an additional 20.
He lost a lot, and another warp in here, all of a sudden swinging things back in Creator's favor, as it looked like those units may have been chased down. The siege tanks not mobile enough to give pursuit here, and they are spread out quite nicely. You know, there's one at the 4th over in the bottom right, I believe. There's actually 2 sitting over there. If he were to bring those up and flank at this time, maybe could have pulled something off. This is a tough spot. He's going to go for a little bit of counter pressure here. Actually get a couple of workers.
Yeah, I thought there were more pros in that transfer.
There were a lot more.
Wow, okay, they were just really grouped up. It looked like there were 3 for a second. And they have to run away, of course, so Creator's going to have to deal with that. And here's the advantage we were talking about before. Creator went into that fight with about a 20 supply advantage. he was a bit down in upgrades because I think 2-2 was finishing up, for Gumiho just as we went into that. But that was kind of his moment to strike if he was going to sit on 3 bases for a while. But now that he has to play catch-up in the overall base game, when Gumiho has had this established for an incredibly long period of time, it's going to be very difficult for Creator to fight back that economic advantage in his favor.
That's a great point to make, Kevin. Gumiho did, however, in that fight, I believe, have 2-2 upgrades. If we take a look, he was either 2-2 or 2-1 now. Okay, so
he was at 2-1 at the beginning of it, but the fight went on so long he finished 2-2 in the middle.
Yeah, it was an extremely drawn-out fight, with Creator in the end having that fantastic concave, but still getting pushed back overall. A lot of upgrades starting right now for Gumiho, as you said, Kevin. That production tab expecting to stay full, but look at the supply of both of our players right now. Creator is actually remaxed substantially faster, thanks to Gumiho going for those upgrades.
Very interesting decision by Gumiho not to put up any more barracks during that fight. He's got a lot of minerals he's floating in. A couple more barracks would have served him pretty well right now. These siege tanks are absorbing some fire, which is very nice, but the Viking count is so much lower this time they can't even pick off one Colossus.
Yeah, they cannot. And that siege tank was shelling away quite nicely. There are so many Archons with this army, though. I'm pretty concerned right now for Gumiho. Creator is moving into a full-on engaged position, but no, he will fall back and join with yet another Colossus and some more Zealots. This is looking very scary for Gumiho.
What is Gumiho spending his money on at the moment? I guess Vikings for now, but man, I thought he had decent economy and resources after that fight, but I was a little bit wrong. EMP should hit a couple of forces here, but we haven't seen it yet.
He finally threw it down, but didn't. He kind of threw it in the middle of all the Archons as Creator actually split them up, which was beautiful out of Creator. Gumiho is waiting for the right place to engage here.
Yeah, and this little pack of Marines is actually doing some significant damage to that Nexus too, so Gumiho is doing pressure across the map. The Zealots actually run up with a not very good engagement. They run directly into a large concave, but the problem is he's struggling to engage these Colossi at the moment.
Oh, he is. This is pretty tough for Creator, actually. I mean, if there's any way that he could throw this game, this would be how to do it. Will the Colossus go down to the Viking? It has one shot left, but it's cleaned up so much of the bio, and the supply is still somehow even, but Gumiho, I think, still has a lot of workers here, Kev, if we take a look overall. In fact, no, he has less. Where is Gumiho's supply?
This is a little ridiculous. Well, part of it's cross-map, as we said before. He's actually taken out a base somehow through all of this craziness. He has retained all of his orbital commands so far, but the Archons are just wrecking house, and there's just nothing that Gumiho can do about it. A lot of his supply was actually tied up in units that were building. Yeah, exactly. That's GG, guys. Creator takes that game. He wins 2 in a row now to put himself at a 3-2 advantage.
All right, so it swings back into Creator's favor. It has been very much teeter-totter. I feel like I'm back in Nova Scotia with my little sister on a seesaw. They have legitimate seesaws in Canada.
Really?
Yeah, like I feel like it's probably like a legal thing. In America, you can't have a seesaw where a person can get hurt, you know? Because these were some seesaws.
You spent many a day on Canadian seesaws.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Those are tense.
I want to try one now. I'm just going to throw that out there if anyone wants a seesaw with me.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to cut to a quick break. 3-2. Creator currently leading over Gumiho. I'm excited to see who's going to secure this. This has been a pretty crazy series, man.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, well, we'll see if Gumiho can tie it up on Antigua Shipyard right after this.